If you are into Renaissance music, you've most probably heard the name Ottaviano Petrucci before. He was an Italian music printer, mostly based in Venice, who until this day is famous for publishing the first prints with polyphonic music around 1500. Note well that he cannot claim to be the first one publishing printed music in its entirety, but Petrucci's prints were the first to be published with a high number of copies and therefore certainly influential enough that they not only shaped music printing and accordingly music notation in the 16th century. It is also a thing that these first sources of printed polyphonic music are dedicated to composers of Franco-Flemish origin, the big names that today we would most likely associate with music from around 1500, like Josquin, Obrecht, De la Rue and so on. The selection of composers that achieved or reinforced widespread publicity through Petrucci's prints definitely had an impact on the composition style of 16th century music in general. Petrucci opened up with a volume of 96 pieces in 1501, the Harmonice Musicis Ottekaton, or Ottekaton as commonly referred to today. It was already quite successful and became the A part of a series of song collections, or Canti A. A year later came Canti B, also very successful. In the same and the following year, he followed this success up with prints dedicated to sets of masses by Josquin, Obrecht, Brummel, Ghiselin, De la Rue, all of which turned out to be highly profitable and renowned. And then, in the same year, came Canti C, and it seems to have been a lot less successful than all the aforementioned. Was it the staggering amount of 139 pieces that Petrucci included in this single volume? The exact reason for the flop can only be guessed, but it's a fact that Petrucci didn't follow it up with Canti D. And it's also very suspicious that Canti C, in contrast to Ottekaton, Canti B or the Josquin masses, weren't mercilessly pirated by later publishers, to quote David Fellows. We can assure you, however, that this flop didn't have an impact on Petrucci's career as a music printer in general, since he continued to publish music in the following years, among them no less than 16 books of masses and 11 volumes dedicated to the secular frottole genre. We can also reassure you that the music covered in Canti C, despite the bad sale figures, is no less beautiful, nor is it less worth listening to than music from Petrucci's other volumes. To give you some proof, just listen to the following example. This clip was taken during a rehearsal here in Basel 2 weeks ago, and we're happy to announce that in 2 more weeks you will have the opportunity to attend an entire concert with program dedicated to songs from Canti C. Here are some thoughts by Baptiste Romain, who will direct this concert.
In this source we find a variety of pieces. Many are relatively old songs which go back to the 1460s, but there are also many arrangements or reworkings of these songs for instruments. We don't really know for what instruments, but we play them today with the ones that we play or that we like very much for this music, which are bowstring instruments, a harp, it's a Bray harp, and the organetto. So for the first rehearsal, what we have to do is give everybody the music, and I've spent a few hours thinking about the program, preparing the parts for everyone. We try to play from facsimile, so I've printed the music in this format. It's a little bit bigger than the original, and it makes our life easier to read from our own parts, because often the editions have many pages, depending on the length of pieces. So in the first rehearsal, we also check the formations, the besetzung, how do the combinations work, who is playing which parts, do we have problems with the parts. Also, sometimes they have mistakes, so we sometimes use the additions, sometimes we just try to figure out by ear, or we have to decide on alterations, what we call musica ficta. And that takes a bit of time. We're actually running a little bit late today.
I hope this is enough to convince you that the apparently smaller success of Canti C has nothing to do with the quality of the music, and that it's finally time to give this volume some credits, since it's relatively underrated in comparison to music from Petrucci's other prints. So if you have time on February 26th, come to the Barfüsserkirche in Basel at 6:15 p.m. Tobias Schwarz will do an introduction at 5:45 p.m. We hope to see you there to enjoy some beautiful Renaissance music.